Don't you want to look at the Grand Canyon?
After all these years, he's developed one little glitch.
Hello everybody and welcome to After the Film. Today we're going to be talking about Captain Fantastic.
What we created here may be unique in all of human existence.
All the way to the top!
We created a paradise.
What we're doing out here is so incredible. Our kids are amazing.
I miss Mom.
Mom needs to be in the hospital right now.
About 3/4 of Captain Fantastic was fantastic. Now I loved this movie for a while. And then it gets to this point, I'm not sure about the structure exactly as far as timing, but I guess it'd be the transition into the third act. Or it's somewhere in the third act. You get basically this Deus Ex Machina that messes up the plot and sets up a tangent that doesn't even last very long. Because there's a central point in the plot where these kids and their father are going to their mother's funeral back in civilization, and her parents want to take the kids away. Very simple, because they don't trust this guy who's raising his kids out in the wilderness, even though his kids are proven. And this one hilarious sequence where the youngest daughter explains the Bill of Rights, it shows that she knows more than the kids that grew up going to school. And maybe it's just because I embrace this idea of these outsiders that live off the grid, the hippies, the communes, and all that stuff. I love that stuff. And the movie doesn't portray Ben, Viggo Mortensen's character, as a bad guy. I mean, the one point early in the film where he kind of gets mad at the kids and tells them no is when they all want to go to their mother's funeral, which is at risk of him being arrested. And that's not him being a bad guy. And then the movie has this conversation between him and his one daughter. He assigns books to them, and he sees while they're on their bus driving that she is reading Lolita, and he didn't assign that one. And he asks her to tell her about it. She calls it interesting. And all the kids react like interesting is a forbidden word. They're not supposed to just call something interesting, so she has to explain. And she goes through this whole explanation that, in retrospect with the film, is a little on the nose for something that I think the director thought they were doing. Where she's talking about how Humbert, this lead character, is this horrible person doing a bad thing. That basically amounts to rape, but the story is told from his perspective, and so you embrace him while being disturbed by him. And I think, in retrospect, after getting to the end of this film, I think someone, the writer or the director, thought they were making a film about that Ben is supposed to be this bad guy that we're supposed to think it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible that he's raising his kids out in the wilderness and, making them learn things and have skills, practical skills. And then in the end, he has to embrace civilization at least a little bit. The movie doesn't quite let you know how much. Spoilers.
What? No!
At the end of the movie, Ben and his kids are living in a house. We don't see outside the house, so we don't see if it's suburban, we don't see if it's out semi-rural or rural area, but it is a house. It's not up in the hills in a shack like they were living. And it's supposed to be this good ending, he's realized he's wrong and all that, except never. The only thing that happens in the movie that makes it look like he's wrong is that ridiculous Deus Ex Machina thing, when one of his daughters is climbing on the roof to get her brother from their grandparents' house. And the movie clearly shows that she's good at climbing. They were rock climbing earlier in the film, and now she climbs quickly up this tree, onto the roof, goes across the roof, up a couple sections of the house, And it's these brick tiles that are, I've been on them, they can wobble. Yes, they can break. But this is where reality gets in the way of my experience of the film, maybe. When you're on those tiles, you can tell when they're wobbling. You can tell when they're gonna break. You don't hang from the edge of one after climbing on them. She's not an idiot. So the only reason the tile breaks, the only reason she falls, the only reason she injures herself and has to go to the hospital is because the movie needs Ben to think he's doing something wrong. It is a cheap out. And up until that point, the movie would have been like a 9 or a 10 for me. And then I was kind of disappointed. They sort of make up for it with their mission afterward to steal their mother's body and cremate her like she wanted to be, and a hilarious goodbye where they flush her ashes down the toilet because that's what her request was, and the one kid's like, "Bye, mommy," and it's a lovely little moment. But it doesn't quite make up for the problem. Secondary part of the problem, the oldest son has secretly gotten applications to college with his mother's help before she died, and his grandparents will pay for it. He can go off to college, he can learn in a system where there's people, he can socialize, and he needs to socialize because just watch, I don't have much of this because it's actually kind of long, it's just the beginning and the end. This is what happens when they're at a trailer park and he hangs out with a girl for the evening and they kiss, and then her mother finds them.
It's almost midnight. I sincerely hope you two lovebirds haven't been doing what I think you've been doing. Okay, funny man. I'm sure your dad's waiting up.
His proposal is long, it's in the middle there, but basically he immediately proposes marriage, and he's, as far as we can tell, serious. They think he's kidding. But that's his social awkwardness on display. He doesn't know how to interact with people. And so, yeah, maybe he could use some civilization. He could use going off to college, seeing, maybe not learning stuff he didn't already know, but learning how people learn, learning how people live. However, when they decide, no, the grandparents aren't taking the kids, we're going to live in a house, apparently they also decide that he's no longer going to college. Instead, he picked a location on a map, in this lovely colonial white man privilege bullshit moment. He's going to go on a trip to Namibia. No reason, just is. Because that's going to help, you know. The movie seems to suggest that the fact that they aren't socializing like normal kids is bad, and we're going to send him to Namibia to make him normal, rather than Harvard or several of the other like Ivy League schools he got into. It's interesting in a way. This movie reminded me of two movies that star River Phoenix. Running on Empty, which is about these parents, 60s radicals who are living on the run from the authorities, and their son is talented with the piano, but the only way he's going to ever do anything with it is if he settles down, leaves his parents, and leaves them on the run without him, so that he can go to Juilliard with his grandparents paying for it. Great movie. Sad movie. And then the other one that this reminded me of was The Mosquito Coast with River Phoenix and Harrison Ford. And the thing I remember, it's been a while since I've watched The Mosquito Coast, is that Harrison Ford's character is an ass. He is this like colonialist, white man's burden kind of guy who thinks them going out into the wild is going to save the natives and save their family and save the world. And he's portrayed as like almost the villain in the movie, even though he's the main character. But I think maybe the director of this film, or the writer, someone involved with this film, thought they were making that Ben is this bad person. And he's not. So it makes that roof tile ex machina a little cheap. Otherwise, I really like this film. And it's worth seeing. If you're not interested in a rugged guy out in the wild, living with his kids, making them work out, making them read, just go see something else. There's always something great out there. See more movies.
Our children shall be philosopher kings. Makes me so indescribably happy.
What is that supposed to mean?